Hey guys, one thing I've been asked to do the past few days is do a bit more reactions. As my last few horror ones, they got some positive feedback in my inbox. So without further ado, I'd like to react to a couple more videos, especially horror genre. Today we've got Watch Mojo. Now, like I said in a previous video, this is a channel we do not like. We've absolutely got no nefarious issues with any of the people that we use. This is my opinion against their opinion. There's not going to be any trashing of anybody's content here. We're not a channel about that, so just get that full disclosure out the way. This is Watch Mojo. I've been watching them for a few years now, and like What Culture Horror, they were a big thing during the C-word pandemic, so it was one of them. Like they sort of inspired me to do this streaming thing. A lot of the horror streamers did. Watch Mojo, Dead Meat, Cody Leach especially. Cody Leach's stuff's awesome. Minty's Comedic Arts, absolutely fantastic channel. And Cinema Sins, we cannot forget Cinema Sins. I'm gonna definitely do a Cinema Sins one soon, because like I absolutely love his work. He makes me giggle so much. But without further ado, this is the 20 greatest horror movies of all time, and this is Watch Mojo's opinion. Let's see how much they differ from mine.
So sorry for everything that has happened.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 horror movies of all time. For this list, we're looking at the world's most legendary and critically acclaimed horror movies. What do you make of these classics? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20, Suspiria. Dario Argento has always been known for
Not something I would have placed at 20. I would have placed this a lot lower on the list. This is a piece of artwork, man. I mean, if anybody's watched the Suspiria remake, I urge you, and I mean I can't urge you anymore, go watch the original. Seriously, go watch the original. It is absolutely fantastic movie.
for his incredible sense of style. The story of Suspiria follows a ballet student named Susie Banyan, who finds herself in a very bizarre dance academy with supernatural undertones.
È la chiave che ci consente di sapere dove vanno le insegnanti ogni notte. L'ho scoperto ieri sera. Ho scritto tutto qui, accanto a te.
There is an English dub version. I'm just going to point that out as well.
But that's really just an excuse for Argento to do what he does best. This is arguably the greatest example of giallo horror, with a surreal atmosphere straight out of a nightmare and some startlingly beautiful images. In fact, nearly every frame of this movie is composed and colored to perfection by cinematographer Luciano Tovoli. Add in some eerie music from Goblin and Argento himself, and you have a movie that really bombards the senses. Number 19, A Nightmare.
I mean, Suspiria is an ultimate classic. I mean, the Italians do several things right in the world, food being one of them, and movies, especially the horror genre, wow, the Italians do them so well. I put them up there with the Japanese. They go for atmosphere, and they go for like extreme violence, and wow. I mean, if anybody that watches my channel is familiar with a zombie film called, I think it's called Zombie 2. I think that's the theatrical release name in the UK and stuff like that. Like, but that is one piece of a zombie movie right now. Like, man, that's another one on my recommended list.
Nightmare on Elm Street. There are slashers, and then there's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's film is now preserved in the National Film Registry, and for good reason. It's one of the most iconic movies ever made. While slashers were a dime a dozen at the time, Craven and his team of talented filmmakers reinvented the wheel. Freddy Krueger quickly became one of the most evocative villains in movie history, and is masterfully played by Robert Englund. The story also ingeniously moved the slicing and dicing into the dreamscape, allowing for some imaginative scenarios and an inescapable sense of doom. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, and he always will be.
It's real, Mama. Feel it. Give me that damn thing. It even has his name written in it. Fred Krueger.
Number 18.
What can we say about Nightmare on Elm Street? Well, Nightmare on Elm Street is fantastic. Another one that I would have put a lot lower in the list, especially seeing that Saw's above it. I'd never put Saw above Nightmare on Elm Street. That's one thing for sure. Don't know the methodology behind that, or if it's a generational thing, but surely like this is a mistake or a typo. Other than that, Nightmare on Elm Street is got to be the original film. The original film that gave me the absolute heebie-jeebies, man. I mean, I can remember the first time watching that. I was with my friend that lived across the street here in Fallon, and like we watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and I can remember actually like fucking being quite creeped out by the dark that night. Like, I mean, any slight movement, man, was fucking with me. And like it just goes to a testament of what Wes Craven did, and like took dreams and basically turned it into a Jaws thing. How Jaws made us all terrified of the water, well, Freddy Krueger all made us terrified to sit back and fall asleep. So props to Wes Craven. That's why I did the whole praise Craven, we are not worthy, because we are not, man. The dude was a fucking masterpiece maker.
Saw. This franchise experienced diminishing returns, but there's no denying that the original Saw is an absolute classic. It's not only a well-written movie full of memorable characters and iconic twists, but it also helped revolutionize the horror genre.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
Countless Saw clones were produced in order to capitalize on the torture trend it began, but none managed to capture the magic of James Wan's little movie that could. While comparisons were made to Seven and other industrial crime movies of its ilk, Saw carved out its own identity through its unique concept and grotesque violence. It spawned one of the biggest franchises in horror history, and Jigsaw has firmly established himself as one of the genre's most recognizable faces.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive.
Number 17.
I mean, Saw, is it worthy? I mean, we've got some classics in there already. I don't think it's worthy of top 20. That's no disrespect to the creators of the film, because it's absolutely fantastic. The twist at the end also is probably why I reckon Watch Mojo have placed it actually so high, is because of the ending. For me, I'm going to say the most unpopular opinion on the Saw franchise, and a lot of people are going to at me and hate me for this, but I actually think Saw 2 is the better film. 100%. Like, I just preferred Saw 2. I think Saw 1, like, the build-up is absolutely fantastic and it's needed. Obviously, we're going to need that character building and that, like, but I think it wastes a lot of potential of, you know, like, we didn't need to see John Kramer get up at the end. It's, as much as that is like going to be the horrible, unpopular opinion, hear me out. I don't think we should have, like, kept John Kramer stepping away at the what's called just before the credits roll. I'd have had that 30 seconds into when the credits roll and say, like, obviously when Gordon leaves the room, obviously still have, like, the audios of the other character just, like, losing his mind, thinking what the fuck is going on here, and then have it cut to just, like, where John is on the floor, and not have it as, like, him, the waking up moment. Have it as sort of like the Saw flashbacks, you know, with the da-da-dun, da-da-dun music and that, like, with him taking the pill that he uses to knock himself out and that, like to keep him still and that, and then have it all flash to that point where he gets up, leaves, game over, credits roll the end. You thoroughly pumped for the sequel then, but other than that, Saw is a great film. Not worthy of top 20 greatest horror movies of all time, in my
Frankenstein. Arguably the most famous horror movie ever made, Frankenstein has been thrilling moviegoers since the early 30s. Based on Mary Shelley's popular novel of the same name, Frankenstein is all about the dangers of playing God.
It's alive! Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Oh, in the name of God! Now I know what it feels like to be God!
Frankenstein's monster is undeniably one of the most popular movie characters of all time. What with the instantly recognizable makeup and the notable performance by Boris Karloff, the themes it presents are also timeless, as it asks questions regarding technological advancement and the nature of unbound curiosity. The movie also spawned one of the greatest sequels ever in Bride of Frankenstein.
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Basically, everything about it is historic. Number 16, Ring.
Very, very worthy of being on this list. I mean, Boris Karloff was an absolute magnetic performer, especially in the hammer horror genre. He was fantastic. He was in a lot of the old horror films. I personally have only ever seen clips of the original Frankenstein, but from what I've gathered, it's well shot, especially for the time. The effects work, the prosthetics work is absolutely fantastic. It's something that, like, you know, is carved the way for all these horror films that come out these days, so it's definitely worthy of being on this list. And we know I love J-horror, so have I got to say anything?
Directed by Hideo Nakata, Ring is easily one of the most popular Japanese horror films. Spawning a very popular American remake, Ring is about a cursed videotape that kills its users within a week.
みんなもあの噂してたからさ。今日で1週間なの。
The movie contains an outstanding villain in Sadako Yamamura, who is the Japanese equivalent of Samara Morgan. Some of its visuals have also made their way into the horror canon, including the eerie tape itself, and the image of Sadako emerging from the television to attack Ryuji. Ring was so successful it helped popularize J-horror in the West, and influenced numerous other films in the genre, including The Grudge and Dark Water. The early 2000s J-horror craze is all thanks to Ring.
じゃあ俺が見終わったらここの電話が鳴るわけだ。
4人死んでるのよ。同じ日に。
だったらお祓いでもすればいい。
Number 15, The Innocent.
Well, I'm not going to say much about The Ring. It was what actually got me into J-horror, got me into a lot of films that I didn't think that I would watch when I was a teenager, and like, my God, I'm so thankful that I watched them, because like I've said a few times, we see these big American releases and they're watered down in comparison. I mean, you see a Japanese movie, everything is really creepy and unsettling about the whole thing. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen Pulse, the original Japanese version. Fantastic. It's so creepy and unsettling. Well, when the Americans tried to remake that, they tried to do it like, oh man, it just didn't work. I don't get why American companies tend to lean more to CGI these days. I would go full body prosthetics and stuff like that, like, and makeup effects. They just look so much more horrific. They don't hurt your eyes so much. I mean, I'm not saying that like green screens are a complete eyesore, because sometimes they can be used efficiently, like, but when you use them to mock up a scene in a real background, and it stands out, like, if you know what I'm saying, and it doesn't look good. Especially when, like, us gorehounds, us horror freaks, we love realism in the movies. This is possibly one of the main reasons why we are horror fans, because we watch horror movies to escape that, you know, that every day there's a hero bullshit. So, like, when we see something with a green screen, it's just like, come on, man. Come on. It's like CGI costs, I think it's a lot more than what it takes to do some good body prosthetics. Sorry. So like, yeah, like really good like animatronics and that. Yeah, it's going to be less expensive, but like, not everybody will use the animatronics and stuff like that. Like they'll use like makeup and practical effects. But like, I'm a sucker for old school ways. I prefer the old school ways of making movies. I just think they stand out a bit better, and that's possibly why I preferred the Japanese Ring over the American Ring. So that's definitely worthy of being on the list. This movie upcoming, I've never seen before, so I can't really have an opinion on it. So I will just skip past it. I will take Watch Mojo's word for it.
Since Henry James's The Turn of the Screw is one of the greatest horror stories ever written, and it's been adapted countless times for the screen. Jack Clayton's attempt is undeniably the best.
I don't know what the children saw, but they used to follow Quentin, Miss Jessel, trailing along behind, hand in hand, whispering. There was too much whispering in this house, miss.
This is a masterfully constructed psychological horror movie with impeccable craft in every department. Clayton's direction is confident, and the screenplay, which was co-written by Truman Capote, is deep and ambiguous. Cinematographer Freddie Francis helps build an oppressive atmosphere through its haunting lighting, and the electronic sound design by Daphne Oram was revolutionary for the time. The Innocence proves that the movie isn't always worse than the book, even when the book is this darn good.
We must try to learn what it is these horrors want. Think, Mrs. Gross. The answer must lie in the past.
Number 14.
Ooh. I will try not to talk too much about Hereditary because it will just get me on a tangent.
Hereditary.
Definitely
Ari
worthy.
Aster made one of the greatest debuts in horror with Hereditary, and instantly established his reputation as a master of the genre. Heralded as one of the most disturbing movies of the decade, Hereditary follows a troubled family as they deal with grief and mental illness.
So full of disdain and resentment and always so annoyed. Well, now your sister is dead.
The story is rich in thematic material, and it twists and turns in many unexpected directions. The visuals are as deeply unsettling as they are gorgeously captured by cinematographer Pavel Pogorzelski. But the real star of the show is Toni Collette, who gives a commanding and harrowing performance as the tortured Annie Graham. The fact that she wasn't nominated for an Oscar is simply unforgivable.
Steve, please, I really need you to be open to this. Please, I promise. Both of you. Please, I need you to be open. Please.
Number 13.
That film was worthy of winning an Oscar from cinematography right down to Toni Collette. I am sorry, but like, this cannot be understated. That film is a fucking masterpiece. I mean, not just Toni Collette, Gabriel Byrne as well as the father. He plays such a vital role in just being so shaky. It's not the Gabriel Byrne we're used to seeing. Keep in mind, this guy's played the devil before, so we're used to seeing him playing a very, very powerful presence. Younger actors, fantastic. The decapitation of the little sisters, wow, what a scene. Aster is just chef's kiss. Just nails it. How that film didn't win an Oscar in any capacity is a fucking crime on cinema. If you've not watched Hereditary, watch it. It's gorgeous for the cinematography, the acting, the atmosphere, the shooting. Everything about this movie is just fucking perfect, and like definitely deserves to be on this list. It would have been one of the newer films that I'd have put much lower on the list, because that deserves to be in the top 10. That really does deserve to be in the top 10. It's one of them films that can't be missed. I certainly was a happy bunny when watching that movie, man. It was awesome. It was everything I expected and more. And like, I'm seeing another classic.
Night of the Living Dead. George A. Romero proved budget doesn't make a movie. With a minuscule amount of money, chocolate sauce for blood, and outfits bought from Goodwill, Romero crafted one of the most revolutionary horror films of all time.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
The first in his historic Dead franchise, Night portrays the outset of the zombie outbreak. The film earned an enormous amount of controversy for its content and on-screen violence, and some critics immediately dismissed it as another cheap B-movie. Today, the film is recognized not only for its craft, but also its historic context. By introducing the modern concept of zombies, Romero changed the very fabric of the horror genre, and his influence has transcended film and reverberated throughout pop culture.
We have some descriptions of the assassins. Eyewitnesses say they are ordinary-looking people. Some say they appear to be in a kind of trance.
Number 12, Rosemary's Baby.
George A. Romero, one of my favourite directors of all time. As you can see at the top of the screen where it says C&G Horror, slaying zombies since 1998, I am a big zombie lover of the franchise, of the genre, of anything to do with zombies. So, George A. Romero, may he rest in peace. Wow, man. I mean, like I said, if Dawn's not on this list is bullshit. Once again, it's just opinion. But like, Dawn is the superior film. What Night did so brilliantly was the actual political aspect of things. I mean, there's many ways you can view that film, and the one thing that stands very close to my heart when watching that film is I can remember watching that film when I was a child, looking straight my dad in the eyes at the end of the film saying, "Dad, why did they shoot the man in?" And my dad turned around and he was just like, to cushion me from the blow, I was very young when I watched it, he turned around and said, "They killed him because they thought he was a zombie, son." And like, I was questioning it because like I knew, I saw he was not acting like a zombie whatsoever. I mean, we saw throughout the film a lot of people mistakenly running over to zombie, well, loved ones that turn into zombies and stuff like that. Like, but Ben was clearly functioning human being in everybody's eyes, and it was the treatment of his body at the end of the film that really impacted me more than anything. And then you actually look at the context of it when you're a bit older and you understand what's going on and what the director is intending, and wow, such a powerful piece of cinema that we did need. So honestly worthy of its place on the list, but I'm still dying on that hill. If Dawn's not in this list is bullshit.
This is a perfect example of taking a good book and turning it into something extraordinary. Adapted from Ira Levin's novel, Rosemary's Baby tells the famous story of Rosemary Woodhouse, a young woman who starts to fear for the life of her unborn child.
Rocky. You're trying to get me to be his mother.
Aren't you his mother?
The movie is not just a great piece of horror, it is a fantastically constructed film. Nearly every aspect of its production has earned acclaim and awards recognition, including the writing and directing, Christoph Komeda's music, and the performances of Mia Farrow and Ruth Gordon, the latter of whom won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. It is an oppressive movie about the paranoia of pregnancy and about being helpless in a world that takes advantage of you. Number 11, The Texas Chainsaw.
Rosemary's Baby is a very good film. It's a shame the director's such a piece of trash. Another shame what happened to his wife. So I'm not really going to talk about Rosemary's Baby other than saying it's a classic. I don't want to bring up the sordid past of what happened during the production. So yeah.
Massacre. The horror genre can be separated into before and after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like many classic horror films, the movie initially received a lukewarm reception and earned enormous controversy for its seemingly immoral content, but time did not blunt this chainsaw. The movie is now praised for its technical filmmaking, which includes gritty cinematography from Daniel Pearl and a terrific sense of time and setting. Just feels dirty.
When I look, you boys don't want to go mess around no old house? Those things is dangerous. You're liable to get hurt.
Of course, it's also a history-making film. It helped popularize the slasher genre and introduce the iconic character Leatherface, who, in turn, influenced many other silent slashers like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Needless to say, the genre was never the same after Tobe Hooper got his hands on it.
The events of that day were to lead to the
Certainly another movie that I could just go to a town on a tangent about, because I absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. One of my favourites. One of my absolute favourites. Yep, Worthy of the Place. Can't really argue with this one. Definitely worthy of the place. Definitely worthy of the number and the placing. So, fun fact for all you horror nerds out there: Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't actually based on a true massacre. It is based on a true story, but not a massacre. It's based on a man called Ed Gein. You can search him up on YouTube or whatever you're going to use. But like, very, very unsettling story to go to the background of this movie and what it inspired. But there's another fun fact as well. Tobe Hooper was also inspired to write Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a packed out, what's it called, DIY store in America. And he looked up and he saw a chainsaw. And he was just like wondering how he'd get through the sea of people, and well, yeah, saw the chainsaw. So Tobe Hooper was a bit maniacal, man.
discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history: the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Number 10, Scream. Wes Craven appears for a second time on this list with Scream, which is easily one of the most groundbreaking slashers ever made.
You want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
By the mid-90s, the genre was dying. It was stuck in place, drowning in endless sequels and been there, done that villains. In came old Master Craven and new screenwriter Kevin Williamson. Scream was the defibrillator that brought the waning genre back to life. It featured Williamson's brilliantly constructed and hilarious script that dismantled the slasher while also paying loving tribute to it. It's also a highly entertaining film, featuring a stellar cast of memorable characters, some inventive kills, and one, well, technically two of the most iconic killers of the 90s.
If they'd watch Prom Night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Number 9, Get Out.
These last two, with Get Out and Scream. Scream, agree, but I put it a bit higher. I'd definitely put it in place of Saw. I wouldn't have Saw in the top 20, as I've pointed out. Get Out. Now, I'm going to say a thing that's going to probably draw a bit of hate here, but I never saw the absolutely amazing thing with Get Out. All I saw was, like, you pretty much typecast fucking, like, take on racism. Definitely from a different perspective. We've not seen the perspective in horror from the black man's perspective and the black victim's perspective. We've seen multiple black victims in horror, but we've never seen one so badly manipulated and so, like, yeah, it's definitely influential, but influential for our time, yes. Influential for the whole impact of, like, cinema. Now, I love Jordan Peele. I love Jordan Peele's work. But Get Out didn't really slap with me as much as Us did. I thought Us was the superior film. And that's not because of the subject matter and that. Like, I just personally just, like, really thought a couple of the things about Get Out were, like, quite cringe, and understandably so. I mean, the lad that played the son in the family, like, he knocked it out of the park, man. He was a thoroughly believable asshole. That guy was meat cannon, and, like, you could totally understand, like, why anybody would want to kill that dude.
Jordan Peele has established himself as the leading name in socially conscious horror, and Get Out confidently established his unique voice.
See what, Mojo? You're just talking bullshit there as well, man. Jordan Peele is up there, but like when you want to talk about social horror, you talk about Wes Craven, you talk about fucking George A. Romero, man. Jesus Christ. Some of these people, man, call yourself horror fans. Come on.
Featuring Peele's Oscar-winning screenplay, Get Out speaks on many topical themes, including race relations in America.
I know what you're thinking.
What?
Come on, I get it. White family, black servants. It's a total cliche.
I wasn't gonna take you there.
Well, you didn't have to, believe me.
It earned widespread acclaim for its seamless blending of horror, comedy, and social critique. And it features a highly original story involving weird in-laws and brain transplants. The movie is deep and smart enough that it could be studied in academia, but it's also highly entertaining with sharp bouts of humor and some exceptional performances, particularly from the Oscar-nominated Daniel Kaluuya. There's simply nothing else like it.
Do they know I'm black?
He smashed it. Let's be honest. He totally smashed it.
No. Should they?
Number 8, Halloween. Is there anything about Halloween that isn't iconic? The setting was enormously influential, bringing the slasher to suburban America. The music is fantastic, complete with one of the most famous themes in movie history. The cinematography was groundbreaking, featuring point-of-view shots and the use of smooth Steadicam.
It's really late. I gotta go.
Will you call me tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Promise?
Yeah.
The characters are memorable and unforgettable, including Dr. Loomis, Michael Myers, and one of the greatest final girls in horror, Laurie Strode. It introduced John Carpenter to the mainstream, and he would later craft other masterpieces like The Thing. Finally, it pioneered all the tropes that the slasher would eventually become famous for. No one had seen anything like Halloween, and it established the basic horror template that is still being copied today.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Number 7.
Can't talk shit about Halloween's placement.
Hey, Meta. Take a
Sorry
video.
about the advert in between. I don't have to.
What are you doing by yourself? Yeah, that's cool. What are you doing? What are you doing? Please don't post that. That's embarrassing.
Can't see the road ahead? We fit bulbs and wiper blades while you wait. Halfords Motoring Club Premium members get a fitting included and 5% off. Plus an MOT at no extra cost. Join in-store or online today for $4.99 a month.
Thank you for that smile on your face. Sunny, one so true. I love you.
Jaws. Later in his career, Steven Spielberg would establish
Not a horror film. Okay, let's all agree that it scared a lot of people, but Jaws is not a horror film. It's PG. I know it's a creature feature, but it's a summer blockbuster, man. It is literally called a summer blockbuster. So, I'm sorry, this does not deserve to be in the list. Get the list right.
himself as a family-friendly director who wowed through warm comfort
said,
and
I
an
love
unbound
Jaws.
imagination.
Fantastic
Jaws
movie.
is, well, it isn't very family-friendly, to say the least.
Oh, 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men
I
come
watched
out. The
this
Sharks took
movie
the
when I was
rest.
like
June
5 with
29th,
my parents. It's fine.
1945.
Every kid
A
should
hungry
experience
shark
this movie.
terrorizes the beaches of Amity Island, and lots of people
Sharks
get
are
eaten
real.
in very violent
You know,
and horrific
especially
ways. The
fucking
movie's
great ones.
style remains impeccable to this day, featuring the classic underwater point-of-view shots, John Williams' recognizable score, and a surprisingly realistic shark. Jaws birthed the summer blockbuster
Bruce
and
Shark.
established Spielberg as a young filmmaker of rare talent and ambition.
$10,000 from me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Number 6, The Silence of the Lambs. When it comes to horror, it doesn't get much more prestigious than The Silence of the Lambs. This is a psychological film that had far higher ambitions than mere entertainment. The movie is out of this world good, and as of 2022, it is the latest and only one of 3 to earn the Big 5 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress, and Screenplay.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
The story gets under the skin like nothing had before, portraying Hannibal Lecter as a fiercely intelligent and verbose villain rather than a silent stalker of teenagers. And speaking of Hannibal Lecter, he is undeniably one of the greatest villains in movie history, a legacy that's aided by stellar dialogue and a flawless performance from Anthony Hopkins.
Still wake up sometimes, don't you? You wake up in the dark and hear the screaming of the lamb.
Once again, unpopular opinion, I believe Brian Cox is the superior Hannibal Lecter. That's not even because I'm English, it's just because Brian Cox is fucking awesome in Manhunter. And that scene where he's just like that, staring at the camera, wow, his eyes, man, yeah, that looks like a psychopath. Hopkins nails it, but he hams it up a lot, man.
Number 5, Alien. This movie sounds like a disaster. We can imagine the pitch meeting now. It's like Halloween, only set in space and featuring an alien instead of a serial killer. Every crappy B movie sounds like that. But it just goes to prove that great movies are made in the execution, not the idea.
How do we kill it, Ash? There's gotta be a way of killing it. How? How do we do it?
You can't.
Under the command of Ridley Scott, Alien was a triumph. It still looks amazing to this day, featuring some exquisite production design, a gorgeous art style, and a convincing alien creature courtesy of H.R. Giger. It's also a perfectly acted film, and it contains some of the most memorable sequences in the history of horror. Chestburster, anyone? Space-based horror does not get much better than this.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.
Number 4, The Shining. There's just no going wrong with Stanley Kubrick. Adapted from Stephen King's classic novel, The Shining tells the story of the Torrance family, who find themselves isolated in a mountain hotel over the winter. Much of the drama is centered around Jack Torrance, who slowly descends into madness and eventually attempts to kill his wife and child.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance.
Jack Nicholson is typically sublime in the role and convincingly depicts Jack's downward spiral. Kubrick is just as magical behind the camera, embodying his movie with tantalizing ambiguity, intriguing themes, and some outstanding camera work. The Shining is an icon of pop culture and one of the most famous horror movies ever made. A perfect marriage of mainstream appeal and artful filmmaking.
But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker.
Number 3, Dracula. The first sound film adapted from Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula is also the best, or at least the most famous. The film is terrifically directed by Todd Browning, and Bela Lugosi crafted one of the most celebrated villains in movie history.
Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
His performance is nothing short of legendary, and he created the archetypal vampire that would be copied for years, even decades to come. The legacy of Dracula simply cannot be overstated. It had a profound impact not only on the history of film, but on Western pop culture. Everyone knows Dracula, both the movie and Lugosi's portrayal of its titular monster. Like a vampire itself, the movie lives on, and it may never fade from the cultural conversation.
To die. To be really dead. That must be glorious.
Number 2, The Exorcist. This is perhaps the greatest example of a movie undergoing a critical reevaluation. The content was extraordinarily controversial at the time, and the film received a mixed critical reception. And then, slowly but surely, people started to view it as the masterpiece that it is.
If you're the devil, why not make the stripes disappear? That's much too vulgar a display of power, Karis.
Where's Reagan?
Quotes from that movie.
In here with us.
The Exorcist was nominated for 10 Oscars and was the first horror film to receive a nom for Best Picture. Essays were written about its religious themes and its place in movie history. Like a demon, characters, scenes, and quotes possessed the public consciousness and have never left. It established horror as a legitimate genre that could contain ambitious themes and remarkable filmmaking along with the typical frights. Basically, the genre wouldn't be what it is today without The Exorcist.
What an excellent day for an exorcism. You'd like that? Intensely.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Psycho. There's nothing about Psycho that doesn't work, and it's so ingrained in pop culture that everyone knows basically everything about it, even if they've never seen it. The characters are timeless, particularly Norman Bates.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Exorcist was pretty much one of them.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
The twists are so well known, but still manage to shock all the same. The shower scene and Bernard Herrmann's score. Need we say more? It also helped shift the very fabric of film by setting the foundation for the slasher genre and raising the bar in terms of on-screen violence. Entire books could be written about the craft behind Psycho and the impact it had not only on the movie industry, but on the very practice of filmmaking.
I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my video and take on it. We're going to be doing a lot more of this reviewing content stuff, but we're also going to be doing a couple of our own. We're going to be talking about new horror films that come out, and we're going to be reviewing horror films that have came out. We're not going to spoil any horror films or anything like that. We don't do that here. So definitely hope to see you in the future. And guys, I hope you have a wonderful time whatever you're doing. Peace and love.